I'm an American who's been traveling the world and living abroad for nearly 2 years. And of those 2 years, I spent 14 months living in the Netherlands. Now, the Netherlands is, out of all the places I've been, perhaps the one place that was truly exactly as advertised. When it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the roads in particular, the biking lanes, and the walkability of places, even in the smallest towns that you've never heard of before, it is world class. Of all the places I've been, the infrastructure, and in particular the transportation infrastructure, has been absolutely world class. And I'm not gonna lie, it has tarnished my experience in pretty much every other place I've been since we left the Netherlands. Now, for context, we left the Netherlands, we traveled through the US for 3 months, my girlfriend and I, and after we left the US, instead of returning to the Netherlands, we decided to go to Southeast Asia because we figured, when else will we have the opportunity to do this for the rest of our lives? So we started off in Thailand and we had a pretty good time there, but we noticed that the infrastructure was definitely a step below. But fair enough, Thailand is a developing country. We went to Vietnam and the area that we were in specifically was very, very nice, and it was actually fairly walkable, but outside of that little bubble of upper class to upper middle class people, it was pretty similar to Thailand, if not even worse in terms of general walkability, because the driving and pedestrian culture there is just on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Right of way literally does not exist there for pedestrians. And then we got here to Malaysia. Now, we've been in Malaysia for a little over a week, and actually infrastructure wise, I would say Malaysia, at least the part that we're in, is on par with the USA. And that has been a very big surprise because I didn't really know what to expect out of Malaysia. I knew it was a little more developed than Thailand and Vietnam, but this country is pretty advanced. The problem is, I believe, at least based on what I've seen, that it has advanced in the wrong direction from an infrastructure standpoint. Now, please do not take this as me disparaging a country that I am a guest in. I'm just providing a critical eye based on my personal experiences. So on the off chance that there's a Malaysian urban planner watching this, don't take this as hate, take this as constructive criticism. So what you see right here is the building, or the two buildings of the apartment complex that we're staying in. I know it's kind of strange for me to show you where we're living, but honestly, most of my audience is from Europe, and even if you did feel compelled to fly all the way to Malaysia to come try to get in our apartment or whatever, you don't know exactly which apartment we're in, and there's security all around the building. So good luck with that. But this is the building that we're in. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because the other day, I needed to go get water because here in Malaysia, just like pretty much every other country I've been to outside of at least Western Europe, you can't really drink the tap water. I don't know if it's technically feasible to do that, but it's not the Netherlands where you can just go to any tap and just drink it, okay? I needed to get one of these. I needed some bottled water for myself and my girlfriend. And I was like, okay, I need to go to this convenience store nearby. Now, when I say nearby, I don't know off the top of my head how far it is distance-wise, but it can't be further than 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer at the absolute most. So let me show you the journey that I took to get to this convenience store. Oh, and by the way, I walked. So I wanted to test out the walking infrastructure, and it was absolutely abysmal, but you'll see that for yourself throughout this video. So I want you to just compare this in your mind to your experience walking to a local store in the Netherlands. Now, here's the problem. If you look this way, there is no sidewalk on this side. I mean, I guess, I don't know if you would count this as a sidewalk, but this is pretty much all you have. But there is a sidewalk on this side. Okay, you see right here, sidewalk, and then for some reason it just has a barrier in the middle. I don't know if you're just supposed to walk around that, but there's a sidewalk right here as well. You can already tell right off the bat that the walking infrastructure is a complete afterthought. I would actually say Malaysia is the most car-centric place that we've been to outside of the US thus far in all of our travels. So I needed to get from here to here. Now, where do I do that? Well, there is a crosswalk, technically speaking, over here. But what I found is that, generally speaking, here in Southeast Asia, again, the right of way for pedestrians is just not a thing. And especially you have so many cars coming from so many different directions. This just doesn't seem like a safe place to cross, in my opinion. But even if I did have the presence of mind to cross here, which would take me in the opposite direction of where I need to go, by the way, I needed to go that way. You can see the sidewalk doesn't really exist. I mean, I guess, I don't know if that's concrete or dirt or what, but this is actually the best crossing point. Look, you have a crossing point that leads directly into a gutter. I mean, imagine if you're old or wheelchair bound or whatever, pretty much impossible for you to cross this street. But I digress. There is a crosswalk, so theoretically I could have taken this way, but again, I didn't feel like it was safe. So what I decided to do was just cross right here. And it was every bit as nerve-wracking as you would expect it to be. So I made my way across here. I think I ran actually across the street, made it here. Okay, so now I'm on this sidewalk. At least they have a sidewalk on that side, because again, all along this side, there's just no sidewalk. And there was actually a tree that was basically blocking off the sidewalk. I had to crouch down like I was in the jungle or something. And again, I'm being super critical primarily because I don't perceive Malaysia as being a developing country, even though it probably is. I haven't seen enough of it to really know, but the area that we're in is too developed to have these kinds of problems, is what I'm saying. So I'm walking along this sidewalk right here. And actually, there's a grocery store as well. I'll touch more on that later on in the video. But there's a grocery store that should be walking distance as well, but it's not. But anyways, I was walking along this sidewalk right here. Now I had two options basically. I could either cross here and keep going down this way, going down this sidewalk, or I could just turn right here. And because, as you see, there's no crosswalk to cross, I mean, where do you actually cross? I pretty much had no choice but to keep going. Now, again, I could have jaywalked, and eventually I had to because, again, I needed to get to this side anyways, this side right here. But I'm walking across this sidewalk right here, and at this point, I'm already pretty salty. I'm salty because I'm like, where are the crosswalks? But when I tell you it gets worse, I am not exaggerating. So you can see, again, the sidewalk keeps going this way and there is no crosswalk to get to this sidewalk. In fact, not only is there no crosswalk, but you can see there are bushes here. So it's not like it would even be feasible to necessarily just walk right here. So I guess you're just supposed to jaywalk. Now, mind you, we're new to Malaysia. I don't know what the rules are like. I don't know what the laws are like. I don't know if that sort of thing carries jail time out here. You don't ever want to test another country's laws, but it seemed like that was my only option. So I said, you know what? I'm going to risk the jail time or the fine or whatever, and I'm just going to cross right here. And also I saw someone else doing it. So I was like, okay, they can't catch both of us. I'm probably faster than that guy. So I cut across the grass right here, which, by the way, I have one pair of shoes, so I really don't like walking in the grass. I really try to avoid it because I have to make those shoes last as long as possible. But I got across to this sidewalk right here. Now, by the way, in this whole entire journey, I saw maybe a total of 2 other people walking. So the area, it's one of those situations where, kind of like the US, it's a chicken or egg thing. There aren't people walking, so they don't feel compelled to build better walking infrastructure. But because they don't build better walking infrastructure, the demand still doesn't exist. And so I think they need to take a not just bikes approach and go with induced demand. But that's besides the point. So you can see we're already a little bit away from the buildings, the apartment buildings. But I'm on this sidewalk right here. Okay, just imagine me walking across the sidewalk. It's hot as hell outside, by the way, and there is very little shade. These trees are not providing any shade at all. At all. It's hot, it's humid. I'm salty. But I'm walking down this sidewalk right here. Now, this is where things get absolutely insane. So, thankfully, I'm already on this side right here. If I was coming from that side, I would have to cross the street this way, and this is a much busier street. I think it's actually coming off of a highway, so cars are traveling at a pretty high rate of speed. But I continue walking down this sidewalk, and the convenience store that I need to get to is on this side. Okay, I'll show you where it is in a second. Now, I'm thinking, because I can see traffic lights up ahead, okay, I'll just go ahead and cross at the crosswalk at those traffic lights. There must be a crosswalk over there. So I keep walking. I'm still walking along that sidewalk. And I get to the traffic lights, and what do you know? There is no crosswalk. And it's not like it's just for my side. It's not like a convoluted situation where I would need to cross from this side of the sidewalk over to this side of the sidewalk and then cross on this side. No, there is no crosswalk anywhere in this intersection. Now, look, jaywalking is already very nerve-wracking, especially when the cars are not stopping for you and they're traveling at a high rate of speed because, again, this area is more developed than Thailand or Vietnam, so the cars can drive faster. Whereas in Thailand and Vietnam, because of how the roads were with some of the potholes and whatnot, it just wasn't really feasible. In the amount of traffic, it wasn't feasible to drive at a high rate of speed on a local road like this. But I needed to get across, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes of traffic. 4 lanes of traffic. And I walked back this way to cross because I was like, listen, I can either focus on these 4 lanes of traffic or I can focus on, what is that? 4, and then you have them coming from this side as well, and then you have cars coming from these 2 sides as well, turning and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, let me go back here and I'm gonna cross like this. Okay, I'm gonna just cross here. And that's exactly what I did. I ran across that street. I'm talking about, I was Usain Bolt, Femke Bol, whoever runs fast. Okay, I was moving like them. Kylian Mbappe, I was chopping. So I get across this street and I get to the convenience store, which is here, 7-Eleven. Okay, I get to the 7-Eleven and I get the stuff that I need. I get my water. So now I'm carrying this big ass jug of water, some batteries and whatever else I needed from the store. And now I have to make that journey back. So I go ahead and start walking back and I have to cross this road again. Now, as I went to cross, I think I actually walked up the sidewalk a little bit and crossed over here. And again, there's no concrete anywhere to indicate where you're supposed to cross, because this right here really looks like it's for cars. There doesn't even seem to be a pedestrian entrance here. So I don't know if maybe I'm just misinterpreting it. Maybe you can just kind of walk in the street or whatever. I haven't really seen anyone doing that though. It seems like people here just don't really walk a whole lot in general. But I ran across and there was actually a police officer right in this part of the sidewalk right here. And I was thinking, I'm gonna have to jaywalk right in front of this police officer and I don't know what's gonna happen. And I went ahead and I did it, and then he did the same going in the opposite direction. And that's when I knew, I was like, okay, that's just what it is here. Now, I know these are first world problems. Oh, you had to cross the street without a crosswalk. Oh, poor you. Look, here's the thing, all right? I'm only holding a place like Malaysia to that standard, just like with the US, because of how well developed it actually is. If you couldn't see these signs in different languages, or if you couldn't see that people were driving on the other side of the road, you might confuse this for the US, for Australia, somewhere like that. Okay, this is a very highly developed place. I would not hold a place like Thailand, for example, to the standard that the Netherlands has set. But a place like Malaysia, a place like the USA, they have developed in the wrong direction. And I'm not saying that these things are easy to fix, because for as much as they could simply place a crosswalk at this intersection right here, who's to say that people would actually honor the right of way for the pedestrians? Because culturally speaking, again, here in Southeast Asia, and to a slightly lesser extent in the US, generally cars just believe they have the right of way because they're bigger. Which, to me, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but when you talk about the laws of physics, you kind of have to agree with them. Because, I mean, if I have the right of way and I get hit by a car, then, I mean, I might be right, but I'd rather be wrong and alive than dead and right. So you basically have to honor that system. And I don't know what the driving school situation is like out here, but it reminds me a lot of the US. And to make matters even worse, you probably noticed that we're living in these high-rise buildings. In fact, I think even from here, you can still see the buildings. So this is a very, very close distance, but it takes you on this long-winded route where you're having to dodge all these cars and whatnot. From our apartment building, from our unit, we can see a grocery store. I'm talking about, it's so close that I can actually read the sign of the grocery store from where we are. And looking at this picture right here, you would think that that's probably what, a 5-10 minute walk? It's actually a 30-minute walk. It's almost 2 kilometers because it takes you in the complete opposite direction. There's no real direct route to walk there. And you have to take almost the same exact route as I have just shown you getting to that convenience store. So you can imagine walking all the way over there, taking that 30-minute walk to a grocery store where you can see the sign from your window, and then taking your groceries back, trying to cross the road, getting hit by a car, your groceries go spilling everywhere. It's just really frustrating. It's frustrating to be back in an environment where walkability is not the norm, it's not the standard, because it's such a simple thing, but so many places seem to get this wrong. And even by European standards, where your average city is a lot more walkable or bikeable, the Netherlands stood out to me as being the top of the top. Maybe Denmark is on par with it, I don't know. But from what I've seen, the Netherlands is the top of the top. And I think that more countries, the USA, Malaysia, probably Australia, haven't been there before, Canada, a lot of developed countries need to take a close look at how the Netherlands is setting their cities up. Because I think that's one of the biggest and simplest levers that these countries could pull to increase the quality of life of their people.